gosh, who was Leonardo da Vinci? You could answer that question 20 different ways at least.
Il genio proprio a 360 gradi nel mondo.
A man with a long beard, working on his lab.
He was one of the most relentlessly curious men who ever lived.
The greatest artist of all time.
Once you start knowing him, things get much more complicated.
There's so many things to so many people.
I was very surprised knowing the scientist he was and the philosopher and the incredible artist of drawings.
Leonardo da Vinci era tanti uomini in un solo uomo.
An astronomer.
Un musicista anche, un architetto, sapeva tutto, sapeva costruire le macchine da guerra.
Engineer, botanist, biologist, anatomist.
An observer, so much.
He was an extraordinary polymath. He was a chef, he was a composer. He wasn't just a painter or a designer.
He was always ahead of time. He was a genius. He was always in search of the right questions and the good answers.
Very clearly, he fits into the category of genius for me.
Una complessità unica, forse mai esistita nella storia dell'umanità.
Even in an 8-hour show like this, we can only touch the surface of what Leonardo was and did.
He still is making waves hundreds of years later, and yet he left behind just 12 works of art. That's extraordinary.
And then, by reading the scripts and acting in the series, he became a man.
Leonardo is a real enigma. I think he was very much an outsider for his times. He was an illegitimate child, he was a gay man. And even if he wasn't necessarily struggling with his identity himself, he was certainly struggling with how best to present that more widely.
I don't think you'll ever fully get the real essence of who he was, but that's the great thing about him, you know? Unraveling the complexity of this man, you wouldn't do it in a lifetime.
I don't know who Leonardo da Vinci is. We're finding him because it's such a complex character. We ask ourselves that question every single day.
So for Steve Thompson and I, what we wanted to do was capture who Leonardo was as a man.
We had this immense problem that we could sit down and write 100 different shows.
From the first few pages, felt it with Frank's drafts. I thought, there's a real person here. This is interesting. This is something, I've never thought of him like that before. You think of Da Vinci and you think of the guy with the old beard and you think of the Mona Lisa and some of the great works, but you don't think of the person so much. And to see this person evolve and change in the opening sort of 10, 15, 20 pages of the first script, I'm thinking, this is a real person, it's a real man, and, you know, it's a human.
These scripts instantly grabbed me when I read them because it's a character-driven narrative. And it's so delicious to have, to deal with a story about a character's journey, in this case, to discover who they are themselves.
Raccontiamo la complessità dell'uomo. Lo vediamo bambino, abbandonato da suo padre. Lo vediamo giovane e trepidante alla ricerca del suo primo lavoro. Vediamo le sue paure, le sue incertezze, la sua grande capacità visionaria, la sua timidezza.
Leonardo is front and center of the script. We get to try and understand him as an outsider, I think, from the very beginning. I think he's very much a different representation of masculinity on screen that all of us should strive to understand and to watch and to put out there in today's world.
This is a love story, but without a sexual love affair. It's a platonic love affair between a man and a woman, but a gay man it's a celibate relationship. And that's a really powerful and different narrative.
One of the challenges you face is genius is a mystery, and you can never really explain where it comes from. But what we've tried to do is give you insight into what made him a genius.
What makes him really interesting as a character is genius is quite a lonely place to be. If you have a genius mind, you're locked inside a genius mind, that can make people very lonely. And so we started to explore the human relationships in his life as well.
To show you how moving his journey through life was and how much he sacrificed to achieve what he did.
But it's more than that. It's also the story of an artist and how they are challenged all the time to achieve what it is they're desperately trying to achieve.
We look at The Last Supper or the Mona Lisa, and we just take for granted that it's beautiful and that it's a masterpiece. But of course, it wasn't so obvious at the time. So we spent a lot of time in this show focusing on Leonardo as a man, but also trying to give the audience an understanding of what made him such a great artist.
In the 8 episodes, every one of the 8 episodes tells the story of one particular piece of art and the struggle to create it. So really, those are our 2 story arcs in a way.
Not just to show you art as if this were an art class or educational television, but to show you the human truth of this art and why it mattered to Leonardo and why it was a work of genius.
When I look into your eyes, I can see the pain of my own.
You know, one of the things that makes it different is the nature of the story as a biopic. It's not a typical costume drama. There's a slight blend of genres, if you like. You know, Frank Spotness and Steve Thompson, Gabby Asher, when in creating the show, have created a murder mystery at the heart of it. You know, it starts with the murder of a woman. Leonardo is arrested and accused of her murder.
So Steve and I began to imagine who she may have really been. And we don't know, because it's lost to history. It's a blank that we had to fill in.
And all of the great biographies say, this is what we do know, but here are the questions which are unanswered. And from our point of view, Frank and I, as dramatists, that's great because we can start to fill in the blanks. We can say, okay, this much we know to be true, but this much is just speculation. And at that point, fiction takes over and we can have some fun with it, I think.
And it's a beautiful framework to create a biopic. So it's a fictional event in a real life story.
But by filling in and imagining what their relationship was and why she was so important to Leonardo, it gave us a way to tell the emotional story of his life that wouldn't have existed otherwise. Leonardo was someone who found his salvation in art and in his own imagination, and he put that above other people, above life and love. And his journey in our series is about learning to put people, life and love above art. I had no idea who was going to play Leonardo. It's obviously a really difficult part to play. So when I found out that Aidan was available and interested in playing the part, I was thrilled.
He's a deeply sensitive personality, a deeply sensitive character. And you have to have that in the artist. You have to have someone who feels everything.
Absolutely the perfect actor for the role of Leonardo. I've never been able to think of anybody better.
To be able to convey his intelligence and the enigma of Leonardo, the mystery of where his genius comes from, that's something not every actor can do. And I think we all felt really confident that Aidan could deliver that, and he has.
I felt a lot of pressure, you know, in preparing to play Leonardo, but I mean, that's what attracted me to the part as well. It's terrifying.
I think for him, it's great to have a role like this to go and play with and explore and challenge himself with, because Leonardo is a man capable of rage and passion and huge empathy and insight.
But we don't know what he was like, you know. We don't have YouTube videos of him. He wasn't on political campaign. We don't have any, we've never heard him speak, we've never seen him walk. So you can start to create this this person, this human, you know, behind all that work. So, I mean, that was the exciting part too. You're not mimicking a famous person that we're all aware of. We're with all the work and with everything we know about him, we're sort of starting again.
And it must be very intimidating to play a real character from history that was such a genius and to make him human.
I overreached. Attempted to cram too many ideas into a single work.
Always hard to say who my favorite characters are because I love all the characters or I wouldn't write them. It's like asking somebody to pick their favorite child. But I would have to say it's Caterina.
Caterina da Cremona is love, like Leonardo would say. She's love.
Tell me about this woman, Caterina da Cremona.
You can't help but love her because she is so blunt and she's honest. She's too honest. She's saying things she should not say. They just come out of her mouth immediately.
She's a young woman. She's a tough one, and she comes from the street, the working class, and so she knows what's what. And but she's also a pure heart, like a white heart, a pure soul.
Is wonderful, and I think the relationship that she has with Leonardo, that is obviously the love story at the center of this show, is really interesting because ultimately it's a platonic one.
It was platonic, I suppose, but you know, there was also, you know, there's a thin line between all of that, I think, you know. It was a real representation of love as opposed to something being platonic or romantic or I felt something, a mixture of the two of them or something more than that even, you know.
So she's able to push him in ways that he's not able to do himself. He doesn't have the confidence. But also he's able to see things in her that she didn't see.
Yeah, it was something more than just a friendship, I think, which was really interesting to play.
They become brother and sister, husband and wife, best friend. We don't know. They have this great bond and this great connection that can't be enchained. They belong to each other.
All my life, I have felt like nothing until now, and until you.
And I don't think that those sorts of love stories are necessarily told as, or in quite the same way that we managed to do on this show. So I'm really proud and excited about that.
And she's like a key that opens him up and begins to allow him to show his art to Verrocchio, to be recognized as the most talented apprentice in the studio.
Verrocchio anche lui era un personaggio molto simile di natura a Leonardo, perché era intanto anche lui primo scultore, poi diventato pittore, poi anche architetto.
Well, Verrocchio was somebody that Leonardo greatly admired, very famous maestro teacher in Florence. Somebody that I think Leonardo really looked up to.
Questo rapporto che c'è tra Leonardo e Verrocchio è quasi un rapporto della ricerca della perfezione, ma la perfezione divina. Tanto lo si vede proprio da quello che hanno dipinto.
We had a lot of fun. I mean, that was very much the sort of the master-pupil relationship.
So, the falcon has taught the falconer.
He's got a big personality, very confident person. So it worked. It was kind of, yeah, we didn't have to, there was no acting really required for the scenes with Giancarlo.
In the questioning of him about Caterina's murder, we invented this character of Stefano Giraldi, who's an officer of the Podesta in Milan.
Is a fictional detective. Leonardo da Vinci is on trial for murder, and I'm trying to find out the truth behind what happened.
It was, I think, around the hottest time in Rome. It was 40 degrees outside, no air conditioning, and we were in this small cell. And we shot all of our scenes, I think, in that week, or in 4 days or something.
I've really relished getting to work with Aidan, and the two of us are often in these confined spaces together in his cell, and the scenes very much aren't about the big action set pieces, but more about these little minutiae between different characters.
If you're innocent, where's your proof?
In some ways, the scenes between Giraldi and Leonardo feel like a different show.
The mind games, I guess, these tennis matches between the two of us, and I've really enjoyed getting to play those.
We've been looking for you.
I go by lots of names. Some people call me Salai, Little Devil.
The characters I enjoy writing in my scripts are among my favourites. I mean, Leonardo is, of course, great fun to write. I have a particular favourite as well, which is the character of Salai.
Salai is a street rat, he's a thief, and becomes the assistant, the friend, the apprentice of Leonardo da Vinci. He's a very smart character, very devilish, very playful, and of course very loyal to his maestro.
Most people, when they meet Leonardo, are very respectful and treat him with a sort of remoteness. Salai doesn't. Salai is a thief, a street rat, and has absolutely no sense of respect for him. And when they talk, there's a really sharp, spicy kind of banter between them, and that's really fun to write.
What's your name?
What would you like it to be?
Everything is just a joke to you.
Leonardo sees a lot of himself in this boy, you know, he takes him from the streets, and he's somebody who I think, you know, he's been rejected by life also, and somebody who just needs, I think, love and attention and somebody to trust, and they find that with each other quite early.
Even they come from different backgrounds, they are going to spend their life together, so it's a relationship based on loyalty between them, and there's a very pure love between them. That's why Salai is going to be always there for Leonardo.
Salai is, he was, you know, one of the big loves of Leonardo's life, I think.
One fact that not a lot of people know about Leonardo is that he was gay. And so Caterina discovers this about Leonardo. He kind of discovers it about himself.
And I think it's a story that feels very modern in terms of that struggle.
You know, here is a guy who encounters all sorts of problems in his life. He has very difficult relationships, problem with his sexuality, terrible problem with his parents. He had a very difficult upbringing. He wasn't brought up by either of his parents, and he was really mistreated by members of his family. And he grew up not really believing that he was lovable, that he was worthy of love.
So much of Leonardo's angst, I think, came from his family and how he was brought up, and he was always quite resentful of being rejected by his father.
I didn't ask to be born.
No one asked for you to be born, Leonardo. You are a mistake. He had several kids, but he never very recognized Leonardo. He didn't want him. He understood later he was a vegetarian, which is particular for that time. Gay, certainly, so he was very disappointed by his son.
Working with Piero, working with Robin, those scenes were always tricky. There was naturally a lot of angst and energy in those scenes.
It's an authority relation. The father is very strong.
He didn't play him necessarily very cold, but it just knowing and researching so much and just speaking to Dan about how much, you know, the relationship with his father would have affected him. It did affect him, always affected him. It just turned on something in those scenes between us, you know.
But he tries to understand his son, but he can't very well understand him. And maybe it gave Leonardo some strength. Of course, it distracted him, but it gave him strength, I think.
My favorite character, I would say Ludovico Sforza. I don't know why, maybe because I love James Darcy and I love his Ludovico Sforza.
I think the relationship between Sforza and Caterina is very interesting in its complexity, but ultimately it felt to me like it was a power game.
It's your choice, of course.
Of course. But there really is no choice at all.
Yeah, James was fun. James is a great guy. He's one of these actors too that's from straight away just embodied he was the character. You know, he just felt right straight away, and he brought a lot of humor to the role too, which was brilliant. I felt right.
You are Leonardo? Do you know who I am? Yes, Your Grace.
One of the really exciting things about playing a character who is, you know, in charge is actually you don't have to do anything. Everybody else does it for you.
It's a great character. It's full of contradiction and over the line all the time. He's crazy. He's the boss of the castle, but you never know what he's thinking.
He can be charming, he can be a tyrant, he can be quiet, he can be loud, he can be any one of those things, but it's much more to do with the way people react around him in court.
I mean, I think a menacing guy and scary person to have around, but, you know, I think he's a patron of the arts, and I think it's, for that reason alone, is somebody that Leonardo appreciated, you know?
I think he challenged him. I think he opened his imagination to some extent, and I think he did push him in ways that even a genius like Leonardo da Vinci needed someone to keep pushing him forward, because every artist is plagued with self-doubt, and the show explores that quite a bit. So Sforza was the person who was there to say to him, no, it's possible, do it, do it, do it.
Whenever you make a film about a real character, it doesn't matter if it's Mahatma Gandhi or Muhammad Ali or Leonardo da Vinci, it's terrifying. They're people that everyone has some idea of. And you are going to be judged harshly, whatever you do. You know, there's no perfect version of this character, there's just the version that you can present. And I think every time you represent someone from history, you have a responsibility to be as truthful as possible to that character. But at the same time, you have a responsibility to tell the best story in the best possible way, regardless of who the actor you cast to play that person or how you choose to write them.
Abbiamo interrotto le riprese il 9 marzo all'ora di pausa, cioè all'ora di pranzo, e dal pomeriggio abbiamo cominciato a pensare come avremmo potuto riaprire i set.
You know, we had to stop production for months. We just had to stop and down tools, and we didn't know if we'd have a show or not. And every production that was shooting all over the world has had exactly this problem.
It's a credit to Lux Vita and Sony and everyone who managed to make it work. It's a huge ordeal, yeah, and one-way systems around everywhere and different departments not meeting each other. It's a huge, I mean, the geography of the whole thing, to orchestrate it is just, in itself, is on top of shooting a TV show. It's just crazy.
How extraordinary it is that Lux Vita has managed to get this show back up on its feet during COVID. They've worked exceptionally hard to make sure we're all tested. You know, weekly we're tested, and that we have a safe working environment for COVID.
Abbiamo immesso uno sforzo enorme, quasi onestamente sovrumano, per riniziare le riprese, che poi sono ripartite l'8 giugno. E devo dire che tutti hanno lavorato enormemente dalle loro case, dai luoghi dove stavano facendo il lockdown, per rendere questo possibile.
So that's been amazing to see how this crew has managed to put together such a huge production again in such a short period of time and keep it safe for everybody. That's really inspiring.
I first of all feel very lucky to be able to be back working. Everyone here in Italy that was obviously so hard hit by the coronavirus has been wonderful at putting in all the necessary precautions and making sure that people feel as safe as they need to in order to go back to work.
We have acres, hectares here of land where we've recreated streets and buildings and interiors and piazzas, and so that we can keep filming and create as many locations as we can.
Abbiamo pensato tante soluzioni differenti, tant'è che siamo stati i primi in Europa a ripartire con una produzione di questa complessità, di questo livello. Come mettere un attore vicino a un altro su un set, perché non si poteva usare le mascherine, certamente come poter disinfettare e rendere igienici un'enorme quantità di costumi, di oggetti. Abbiamo acquistato delle macchine che disinfettavano i vestiti di chi accedeva ai set, prendendo la temperatura, igienizzando non solo i vestiti ma anche il corpo.
I feel like, you know, the protocols are terrific. We're tested all the time. Everyone on the crew is tested. Everybody is wearing masks. You know, it's as safe as it could be.
It's a bit weird working under these protocols. I won't lie to you, because it's very difficult to understand my job without being close to both cast and crew. But I have the feeling that we're working in a very safe environment, and the production has taken a lot of measures to protect us. So I have the feeling that I'm calm and I can do my job well.
And this job is about relationship, is about being together and play together. We all feel very blessed to be back on set and do what we love the most, because we understand that is not something to take for granted in life in general.
One of the most important things to me in creating this show was to make it as authentic as possible and look at the story through Leonardo's eyes as much as possible. What were the resources available to him? What were the materials available to him? How did he actually paint his art? What were his skills? How did he learn them?
I think straight away getting a tour of the art department and just seeing the work that they had done and that they had to do was quite breathtaking, actually.
Un set come questo ha più di 200 persone che ruotano intorno, 2-3 unità a volte al giorno che girano contemporaneamente. Abbiamo realizzato e costruito in parte decine di location, 60-70 set diversi.
Una copertura di almeno 600-700 metri quadrati di superficie. Abbiamo un grossissimo set che è tutto l'esterno di Firenze, che lo ricostruiremo in un terreno, in un backlot qui vicino agli studi della Film House.
Ma la sfida era veramente enorme, costruire una cosa probabilmente che da 20 anni non si realizzava qui a Roma e in Italia, un set di altri tempi, come misure, come estensione, come complessità di realizzazione.
Nell'art department qui in questo ufficio siamo praticamente 5-6 persone. Poi c'è un reparto di arredatori, sono altre 6-7 persone. Poi c'è un reparto di falegnameria, di stuccatori, di ditte esterne che costruiscono le scene. E in totale potrebbero essere anche più di 150 persone. Solo ovviamente in un progetto come questo dove tutto è quasi tutto completamente ricostruito.
Dentro questa costruzione ci sono 2 città, c'è Firenze e c'è Milano, strade, vicoli, palazzi, chiese. È stato un lavoro di enorme complessità realizzativa.
Questo è il modello, diciamo, della costruzione di Firenze in scala, molto utile alla regia per studiare un po' tutti i movimenti scenici, i movimenti della macchina, per gli attori, per le scene di gruppo, insomma è molto utile un po' a tutti. E quello che vedete in verde sarà quello che verrà realizzato in CGI, cioè in post-produzione. I disegni tecnici e anche i bozzetti vengono forniti sempre da noi, del reparto scenografia, in maniera che loro hanno comunque una progettazione che segue quella reale. Una parte molto importante del nostro lavoro è la fase dei bozzetti, che generalmente si fa all'inizio della preparazione, che riguarda proprio illustrare un po' tutto il look del film, il vestito del film. Quindi c'è dalla tavolozza dei colori, la scelta dello stile degli arredi, si ha una visione totale di quello che poi sarà il film praticamente.
I mean, I had no idea. You have a clue in reading the scripts, but you forget how many stages, and somebody has to do this actual work, has to paint from the beginning. I mean, lots of them, they're not just all HD scans or photographs. I mean, a lot of them have to be painted and sketched from the very start.
Io sono un pittore di scena, anzi uno scenic artist, e lavoro soprattutto sulla quadreria e tutto quello che è la decorazione e la pittura nella cinematografia, e soprattutto nei film ambientati in epoche passate, quindi in epoche classiche, perché ho studiato la pittura antica e quindi conoscendo le tecniche, conoscendo gli stili, questo studio viene applicato poi nella cinematografia. Può essere il disegno, può essere l'incisione, può essere adesso una pittura a olio, come può essere un affresco, sempre chiaramente realizzato però con una tecnica che in qualche modo ricorda la tecnica originale, perché stiamo parlando di scenografia, e riporto attraverso dei metodi che ormai ho collaudato negli anni lo stesso impatto visivo che può avere un vero affresco, un vero quadro a olio.
So in the creation of the apprenticeship that he went through at Verrocchio's studio, all of the young artists who we selected to be working with him went through a kind of boot camp of Renaissance painting techniques and sculpting techniques and charcoal drawing techniques, so that they all knew literally how to hold a charcoal, what they were trying to see, what they were trying to achieve, what they were trying to make, and had to go through that process so that the way they thought, the way they behaved was authentic.
E ho cercato poi di riportare anche la fisionomica, i canoni comunque moderni delle nostre facce, quello che può essere il canone classico di un pittore rinascimentale, perché i profili hanno la fisionomica classica ha un suo stile, ha una quasi legata un po' al mondo greco, al mondo antico, quindi a tutto quello che può essere il rapporto aureo del volto. E allora attraverso questi studi cerco di portare anche il volto dell'attore, quindi è un'impresa abbastanza delicata. Poi abbiamo un regista che ha una conoscenza molto approfondita sull'artista Leonardo e stiamo cercando di fare il tutto il più preciso possibile.
You need to kind of take yourself back to that time and realize what the light was like. The sun would have looked exactly the same as what it looks like now. The main differences would have been the fabrics, the costume, the fabric of the building.
Our cinematographer, Steve Laws, is someone I've worked with on 4 or 5 different shows now, and he is the perfect director of photography for a show like this because he paints with light. I don't know how else to put it. And Steve Laws sees the world in the way I want to direct it.
One of the things that I was very keen to do on Leonardo was to restrict myself in a way to the way the light would have been in the 16th, 15th, 16th century. And by that I mean daylight, moonlight, candlelight. On a show like, Leonardo, or in that period, there is only these types of light. And very much like Verrocchio talks about the quality of the light and the shade of the light and the color of the light, it's a very similar process for coming up with a plan for Leonardo.
C'è una scena molto bella dove Verrocchio spiega i tipi di luce, dice ci sono 3 tipi di luce nel mondo.
The first is direct light from a window or a candle flame. The second is diffused light.
What's the third kind of light?
Verrocchio risponde, la terza luce io ho sempre cercato di trovarla, ma quella non mi è stato possibile trovarla perché è la luce di Dio.
One of the other things that Dan and I talked about was the movement of the camera. We kind of feel that if you put yourself back in the 1500s, you didn't have a drone, you didn't have a tall building to look down from. So we decided that we wanted to keep the perspective at ground level and shoot in that sense.
And in the clothing and in the design and in the colors and the textures and the materials, we want it to be as realistic as we can possibly make it.
I'd give credit to the design department because they did an amazing job, and the costume department and the hair and makeup, all those other departments. I can like what I get to work with.
Ed è difficile perché intanto io cerco ogni volta di dare uno stile, una parte visiva, un taglio visivo che differenzi chiaramente, nonostante sia la stessa epoca, questa serie da quella che ho fatto precedentemente, anche perché è un'altra storia. E poi perché in realtà il periodo che riguarda appunto il centro della vita di Leonardo, cioè gli inizi del Cinquecento, la fine del 400 e del 500, è un periodo molto particolare, è un periodo in cui appunto di passaggio, quasi di vuoto sospeso, no? Rispetto alla pienezza degli anni precedenti. E Leonardo si affaccia in questo terreno che è molto dark, presentandosi subito come uno degli artisti e degli studiosi e dei talenti più eclettici che esistano. Ed è incredibile come i movimenti, gli spostamenti geografici di Leonardo da una città all'altra, da un committente all'altro, dai Medici a Ludovico il Moro e poi alla Francia, in qualche modo ne cambia la natura. Nel senso che lui stesso, che inizia in un modo, si trasforma, e questo permette di cambiarlo a Firenze, di rendere il periodo fiorentino primo in un certo modo e Milano ad esempio in un altro modo, e poi ritorna, cioè già le due città differenziano, a parte gli anni che passano, anche in termini proprio di stile, quello che è Leonardo e il suo modo di essere.
Perché il costume ci dà il 50% del personaggio, ma anche di più. Sai che la cosa più difficile per i personaggi è lavorare quando c'hai cravatta e giacca, questo lo diceva Hitchcock, è la cosa più difficile. Ma quando ti mettono un costume è bellissimo. Già il costume ti trasporta in un altro movimento proprio, a parte l'altra epoca, quindi la definisce lui, no?
Lì abbiamo tutti i quadri che dovrebbe fare Leonardo, e alcune attrici le devo pettinare come i quadri. Quest'epoca qui, il 400, lo faccio proprio, mi viene spontaneo lavorare facendo queste epoche, capito? Sembra che sia nata in quell'epoca, non so, forse se avrò gli antenati miei, non lo so. Mi rimane facile, ecco, devo dire la verità.
Perché fare una ricostruzione storica dà la possibilità di mettere in pratica, oltre che la propria tecnica di lavoro, anche la propria genialità e la propria cultura, è questo che fa la differenza.
Because I think the audience always knows when they've been given a version of reality rather than being invited into a reality. It's a very different thing.
You think, God, this is pretty, you're not going to get much closer to it. I mean, we're kind of in roughly the same costume, and this is per scale what it looked like. This is the room is as well. It's incredible to have them, not just on film, but to be in it and to look around, to be on the platform painting, you know, having that moment.
I think costume drama often suffers from that. It can be quite tableau, I mean quite presented rather than inhabited. And I want this world to feel inhabited. So every set feels lived in, every costume feels worn, there's dirt under the fingernails, the hair is a little bit greasy, there's sweat under the armpits. It's a real world.
Leonardo appartiene al mondo, quindi abbiamo ricercato professionisti di grande spessore internazionale, ma anche di grande capacità intellettuale e di sensibilità. Chi è stato su questo set doveva avere una forte, come dire, propensione artistica e un'enorme professionalità per mettere insieme un sogno veramente internazionale.
The audience should watch Leonardo because I am in the series.
Okay, perfect.
Because it's a series about the greatest artist of all time, Leonardo da Vinci.
People should watch Leonardo because it's fascinating. I mean, it's an insight into one of the most extraordinary human brains in the history of the world.
We get to see him as a person, and when we do that, I think we're even more amazed that this man, this genius, managed to accomplish what he did. You know, it makes him more real and then even more incredible, I think.
It's not a costume drama, it's not a classic costume drama. It's about love and relationship and pushing yourself to the limit and learning how to love again. It's a very modern series, and it's a universal story, so everyone should watch it.
I hope loads of people tune in to watch this show. I feel like it's very relevant. We get to understand Leonardo da Vinci on a level that I don't think any of us will previously have had, beyond just the major pieces of artwork that we know him for, but who is that enigmatic man behind them?
How it was all done, you know, in the detail that we show it. You know, we went to great lengths to make sure that everything is historically accurate, and I think we've done a great job doing that. So for that alone, I think it's worth seeing it.
And it's beautifully presented, and you will, if you have any interest at all in art or creation, this series will speak to you.